What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall markets. I'm going to break down some big news involving BYD and Elon Musk. What's happening with some data coming out at 9:45 a.m. that may cause some volatility. What you should be watching for as time goes on. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you sign up for Moomoo and deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000, you're guaranteed 25 in total. Deposit $5,000, you're guaranteed 60 free stocks. You also qualify for an 8.1% APY on uninvested cash. The offer is as soon as June 3rd. Anyways, check out my link down below. Now, when it comes to the way Tesla's moving, we did dip quite a bit all the way down towards this 327 area, coming very close to our 325 target. But I do anticipate a small little rebound, like a teeny tiny little rebound, as Tesla's up about 4 points since then. We could go a little bit higher, but then whether we get a bigger push up or if we get a big rug pull is now going to depend a bit on this data that's coming out. So at 9:45 a.m., we have the S&P Global Composite Manufacturing and Services PMI report. This is going to cause a lot of volatility at that time. So 15 minutes after the stock market opens, I do expect that. And if that causes Tesla to dip more, if we get like a small push when we open and start tipping once the data comes out, I'm going to be expecting a test near like 323 to 325, which is where this 50 EMA is. But if it pushes this up, we could be looking for like 337, depending on what the data looks like. Now, nonetheless, whether we get a small bounce or not initially, doesn't matter because Tesla's still kind of weak here as we're making lower highs and lower lows. So I just wanted to give you guys a quick warning about that, and I'll talk more about the details in just a second. But I first want to talk about some news. So there's some news that's come out that in China, BYD has outsold Tesla. And also, they outsold Tesla in Europe, at least for the first time for the month of April. This is old data, but unfortunately, this is still, getting Tesla a lot of criticism. But then you have to consider that BYD also makes plug-in hybrid vehicles. So when you account for like everything like that, the sales are even more. But in total, they had about 7,231 battery powered electric EVs in Europe in April, whereas Tesla registered about 7,165. So we had less for Tesla, unfortunately. But it is what it is because we were seeing Tesla showing signs of demand problems during that time in that period. And despite that, Elon Musk has actually accounted for this. He mentioned that he sees a big surge in their sales. He said it's fine, don't worry about it, because he is asserting he's going to be looking for a major rebound in the customer interest for the EVs, despite all the political tensions and scrutiny that he has been getting. So Elon Musk is saying it's going to be okay. The sales will come back. He's also very optimistic about the robotaxi, as we are going to be expecting a launch in the month of June in Austin, Texas. So he's very optimistic despite this, and he's telling us, don't worry, there's going to be a big surge in demand coming very, very soon. So he could be referring to the summer period when Tesla tends to get strong sales in the month of June. That could be what he's talking about. Now, don't forget, at 9:45 a.m. we have this data coming out, so we'll see what this leads to for Tesla. Then at 11:30 a.m. we have the 4 and 8 week bill auctions. Besides that, I've been looking around. I'm not seeing a whole lot else that's going on, at least right now. We do have the House of Representatives that are passing President Trump's new tax bill, so that could be very impactful. So keep that in mind. I'm not going to go over the full details about this, but until it's like officially signed, this could actually cause a big move once it finally passes. If it does pass relatively soon, but that depends on when that happens. It may take a while. This has been going to basically promote tax cuts for individuals. They're going to be implementing policy that's going to involve food assistance and things like that. So there are some good things that could come from it, but simultaneously, I do see criticisms of it as it could be increasing the U.S.'s debt by trillions of dollars over the decades. So, there's two ways to kind of look at it. However you want to look at it, if it's going to increase our debt a lot, or if there are some good things that could be coming, whatever you guys want to see in it, it's up to you. But just keep in mind that once this passes, this could be bullish for the stock market. It hasn't officially passed yet. It just made it past the House of Representatives. It's going to go through the Senate first. And then we have President Trump, who's going to be signing it after that. So just keep that in mind. That's what we're essentially going to be waiting for. Lastly, when it comes to earnings, we had very minor ones, at least so far. Today's Thursday. We just have like a couple of them, such as like Intuit and Ross, at least later on. So keep that in mind. Anyways, at 9:45 a.m., expect some volatility. So we'll see what this leads to. Looking at Tesla, what I think is going to happen is this. We're going to switch over to my path over here. You'll see that Tesla might try to push a little bit for like 333 to 335. But once this data comes out, okay, if we get poor manufacturing numbers and the market dumps, we could still see Tesla retest 325, which is where we have this big support right here before it tries to rebound. Or if we get good data, we could be pushing for 337 and then end up coming down like this. So it depends on the data. That's going to be the biggest factor. For the time being, do anticipate a small push in Tesla. We might actually try to push a little higher for like 333 to 335. Then we'll see if we get a big rejection or not once the data comes out. There's still a risk of that. So I do think that a move like this is a bit more probable where Tesla pushes but then starts to slow down, as that risk of downside is still there, as we haven't really tested our 50 EMA quite yet. So I'm just here to give you guys a warning about that. When it comes to SPY, we're actually trying to rebound right now. We're almost green in the pre-market, but I'd still be very careful with the data that's coming out. My prediction, excuse me, my prediction was a test of 580. We came down to 580. Now we're bouncing, so do anticipate a small push towards like the 583 to 584 area. But then once this data comes out, these manufacturing numbers either launch us back up to 588 if we break 585, or if we don't break 585, we could reject and continue to go lower. I'll be watching this very closely depending on what this data looks like. So look for a small push upon open and see if you reject off 585 to continue lower. If we lose 580, we're looking for a dump to 578 and 575. If we break 575, we're looking for a push back up. I'll be looking for a move possibly like this, depending on if we end up breaking past 585 or not, before we end up seeing a lot of volatility. So keep that in mind, at least for SPY. Might be a small push to start things off, then we'll see how this data affects things. And by the way, about Tesla, basically, if Tesla gets back above 337, we could turn a bit more bullish. But if we lose 323, we're going to be favoring bears a lot more based off these EMAs. Now, initially, like I said, Tesla could try to push for like 335 or so, but then, depending on the data, there still could be another rejection coming to get back down to the 50 EMA. So please keep that in mind. When it comes to the QQQ, same thing as SPY, essentially. I do anticipate a little bit more upside. I think that we might be pushing a bit higher for 515 or so. And then once we're near 515, the data either launches this back up to 517 or it causes a rug pull and we continue to fall back down to 508. This does look a bit more probable, but we'll see depending on the data. So keep that in mind. So watch and see if we break 515 or not. If not, we could be dipping back down. We came down to fill the gap already on the IWM, so I do anticipate a small bounce. We're going to be watching this 204 area to see if we break this or not. If not, we could be turning back down. Look for a push to 204, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. Even on ES, we're trying to rebound right now. We're looking for a test of 5877 to 5900 in this range right here. And then we'll see if we get launched back up like this to 5930 once this data comes out, or if this data kind of like causes a big rejection and we start to slowly, reject off another lower high to come back down. You could also draw like a trend line like this just for your like reference, right? That's another possibility. We kind of like push and reject. We'll see if that ends up happening to ES. So watch to see if 5900 breaks. If not, we could be turning back down and continuing to fall back down to 5800 or below. For NQ, it's the same thing essentially. So we have this resistance at 21,279 and we have support at 21,100. So if we break 21,200, we're looking for 21,279, we're looking for a push. And if we lose 21,100, we're looking for a dip back down. Could be looking for some consolidation here, and then we'll see if this data launches this up or back down. Might still make another move down if we lose 21,000, so be prepared just to be safe. That could still happen when the data comes out. Bitcoin is still bullish. We're seeing a lot of people buying it as it's making new highs. We need to see if it can hold above 110,000. So long as we're above that, we're favoring 112,500 or above. On Nvidia, we dumped to our target of 130 already. Now there's a small rebound, so we'll see if we can break past 132.7. If it does, we're looking for 134. Then we'll see if we get a big rejection off this to start dumping, or if we end up breaking past this to push higher. So I'll be watching this very, very closely as time goes on. If we reject, you're looking for a move back down towards 130 or below. For Aapl still has a gap to fill at 198. We haven't fully filled the gap. Might push to about, this this level right over here, this like 202.9, almost 203 area. But then we'll have to see if we could break 205 to turn back up. If we can't break 205, we're going to be at risk of turning back down and eventually coming down to fill this gap. It kind of looks like an inverse cup and handle as well. So keep that in mind. As far as AMD is going, we're actually making lower highs right here. We're looking at this resistance near this 113 area to see if we break this or not. If we break this, we could be going a little higher. If we can't break this, we could kind of hit this and reject back down to 110. For PayPal, we're actually making lower highs as well. We have to break and hold above 72 if we can, so we could be dipping back down to 70.8 or below. So keep that in mind. Coinbase is also forming a nice wedge now, so this is holding support. So this is actually looking pretty good. As long as we don't lose 259, we're actually favoring upside for a push for a 272. Amazon is trying to rebound a bit off 200. It could be pushing to the low 200s like 202 to 203 for a small rebound, but this might not last because we still haven't fully filled the gap. But if we lose 200, I do expect that gap fill to 193. So in case we get a rejection, we could still turn back down. For Meta, we basically have 645 as our resistance. If that breaks, we could go higher. And if we can't break, then we're looking for a move back down to 624 or below, especially as we have this gap to fill near low 600s. For Google, Google's making higher lows, so we're looking for a temp for 175 or above as it's looking bullish. And Microsoft has resistance at 453 and our support's at 444. We'll see if we break resistance here. If we can, we're going to turn back down. I do think this might push a bit for 455, and we'll see if we get a rejection. The market is starting off on a high end, especially as the VIX has filled this gap. But the question is this just the start? Is the VIX going to come down and eventually bounce like this as we continue this inverse head and shoulders like structure? Or is the VIX just going to continue to fall? I do think the market's going to bounce a teeny bits, but then whether we continue to push or not depends on some data at 9:45. So just be very, very careful. When Tesla opens, get ready for a small push. I do think we push a little bit higher for like 133 than 135, but then I don't know what the reaction will be once this data comes out. So keep that in mind. Will that cause a big rejection? Do we end up turning back down, or do we just continue to break 337 to push more? I'll be watching that very closely. So get ready for some high volatility once this data comes out, and be prepared, guys. We could still get a big rejection. The market might not be done with the downside, so be prepared. Thank you for listening, and peace out.